STARTEREK 4 Kelvin V's Star Trek film, which was announced prematurely early last year and is currently in development, Limbo, is still on the horizon. The acclaimed One Division director Matt Shakman was set to direct the space adventure, but those plans fell through when Shakman was tapped to direct the highly anticipated Fantastic Four film, which would serve as the superhero team's introduction into the MCU. In this video, we dive into the uncertain fate of the film and explore the exciting possibilities that lie ahead. Why do Star Trek movies cost so much? Why has Star Trek 4 still not happened? And will the new director's vision capture the essence of Star Trek? But before we dive deeper, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button to join us on this exciting journey. Without further ado, let's get started. Collider's recently interviewed Jackman about his new Amazon Prime Video series, The Consultant, as well as his upcoming work in the Marvel Universe and the new Godzilla series. Wayne Drab made a point of asking about Shakman's take on Star Trek. During the conversation, Shakman was quick to point out that he couldn't reveal much about the fourth film's plot, because what they are still working on is a version of what I've been working on for the time that I was involved, given the hiccups that occurred when the film was first announced. Hearing that Star Trek 4 is still in the works at Paramount is exciting. Wayne Trabb argued that the best way forward for the next Star Trek film would be a hard sci-fi project that could be completed on a smaller budget, echoing a previous sentiment expressed by lead actor Chris Pine, who plays the iconic Captain Kirk in the Kelvinverse films. Shortly after the film's announcement, Pine stated, "I've always thought that Star Trek should operate in a smaller zone. It's not a Marvel appeal. It's like, let's make a movie for people who like this group of people, this story, and Star Trek. Let's make it for them. And if people want to come to the party, that's fantastic. Okay, but why do Star Trek movies have such high production costs?" Wayne Drab and Shakman had a conversation about taking a similar approach for a Star Trek movie, considering a budget range of $30 to $50 million. They discussed the ideas of creating a hard sci-fi film specifically targeted at the dedicated fanbase. Shakman acknowledged that in today's era, depicting space travel in movies is inherently expensive. Even if the story primarily takes place in one location, the cost of showcasing the Enterprise and its voyages adds up significantly. Shakman further elaborated that despite aiming for a smaller budget, the film he would have made for Star Trek IV would still have retained the characteristics of a large tent-pole film. He attributed this to various factors, including the extensive and widely recognized cast of the franchise, which includes Chris Pine, Zoe Saldana, Zachary Quinto, Carl Urban, Simon Pegg, John Cho, and others. Shakman also commended J.J. Abrams, the director of Star Trek, for his ability to attract a broader audience to the franchise by incorporating grand-scale elements into its films. I think one of the things that J.J. Abrams has done so well is that he'll be the first to admit he didn't grow up being a giant Star Trek fan, even though he's a fan now, but he was a huge Star Wars fan. So I think in rebooting it with Chris Pine, Zoe Saldana, and Zach Quinto, he brought a little bit of Star Wars into it, which I think helped expand its audience in terms of the scope and the scale of it and the energy of it. I think that is certainly the goal, to find more and more of an audience for Star Trek. But I am, like you, a huge fan of that, and it was a real shame that I couldn't make the timing work on that. Okay with that, but it's been 7 years since the last Star Trek movie. Why hasn't it gotten out of this space dock? Yet take the surprise if no one in Hollywood or Trek fandom. Paramount Pictures has officially pulled Star Trek IV from its release schedule. No official reason has been given for the film's removal from its December 22 and 2023 slot, per The Hollywood Reporter, but the writing was almost certainly on the wall when director Matt Shakman departed to take over Marvel Studios. Is highly anticipated Fantastic Four reboot. The news leaves the fate of the big screen version of Drek, as well as its cast, in limbo. Not surprising given that the current theatrical cast didn't even seem to know the movie was moving forward until this past summer at San Diego Comic-Con 2022. Chris Pine was promoting his upcoming film Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves when Deadline asked him about a fourth Star Trek film.